So thank you for joining me today. And I plan to show you some tips and strategies to make your Lightroom workflow more enjoyable, less stressful. I've been using Lightroom for about 7 years as my hub. You know, I used to use Bridge before, and I find with time, and especially in the last year, my own workflow has changed considerably as Lightroom keeps changing, life keeps changing, our cameras keep changing. And in fact, I just got a second camera, and my Lightroom workflow is going to change again, like, you know, next week once I figure out that, which I'll touch on that more later. So it's never too early and it's never too late to change what you're doing and make it work for your how you're photographing today with the equipment you have, the budget you have, etc. I've divided this talk into 4 modules. We'll do performance, import, library module, and develop module. And I just want to say again, I'm anticipating a lot of questions, and I'm really going to try to answer as many as I can. But you know, this is an overview that I want to leave you with some tips and ideas. And so if you can keep your questions on a more general nature, so that everybody could learn a little and gain a little. And if you have really particular workflow questions, the deep dive paid webinar, you're going to be able to submit questions in advance. You can also submit photos in advance. Maybe I'll use them in the tutorials to how to learn things for me. So with that said, we're going to start with performance. And I'm going to take you into Lightroom now, and in the end, I'm going to come back to PowerPoint with you know, a review of what we just did. So here we are in Lightroom. I created a catalog for this workshop. I did do thank you in advance. Some of you responded to the survey, and it gave me a nice like beginning to see where some of you were at. Can everyone see my full screen?
Yes.
Good. Okay, good. So this is where we'll begin. Performance is really the most important thing. If your Lightroom isn't working well, you get that spinny wheel, it's enough to drive you crazy. So you know, go to your Lightroom. I'm in the Lightroom preferences. So these are global settings, and you know, with each import update, like Lightroom just had an update today, which I haven't done because I didn't want any surprises, but I don't think it's anything major, big deal, but we'll talk about it in the deep dive. But anyway, these are the settings I think I'm recommending for you. So again, I'm in the, because people are coming in, Lightroom Classic Preferences. I use many catalogs, and so I find it best to tell my default asks me instead of surprising me and, you know, taking me to a catalog I didn't want to be in, or even my catalog that I want to be in could be in the wrong location. So this is something I recommend. The second thing that is new to me, who shoots raw and JPEG, and it seemed 50-50, but I didn't get all your responses. But anyway, I just got a Canon R lens, a camera, and they're not giving the profiles for Lightroom yet. So I'm now shooting JPEGs and RAW, and I'm going to come up with my own recipe. So I don't know. I think it's a good thing for you to use, just as because it doesn't default to that. The next thing I want to show you is this. I don't know if you know that, but Lightroom defaults on a global level to Adobe default. So when we go into treatments in the develop panel, you'll see Adobe Color and all those Adobe things. So you can change that here. And I think this is a really great tip. And you can set it to all your cameras. I have these are the choices. You could just put 5D Mark IV, for instance, but I put my serial number because sometimes I use a second camera that I can get from Canon or etc. So these are my cameras, and I just like that, you know, the way I'm shooting is going to come up in the develop panel. The only other thing I wanted to mention performance-wise was I just did a update read on Adobe Lightroom website, and they're recommending, if you have the room on your computer, to do 20 gigabytes of cache. So I recommend all those. So that's in the Lightroom catalog. I mean, classic preferences. Then in the catalogs, these are a couple of things I wanted to point out. First, in the general, is it tells you where Lightroom is. It must, for those who don't know, Lightroom defaults to your pictures folders. And so you would do that if you had a great fast Mac, desktop, or PC. I mean, laptop. You need a lot of power. So if you do, it's best to keep your catalogs in your pictures folders. If not, you can move them elsewhere. I can show you here. Mine's my pictures, and I have a bunch of Lightroom catalogs to show, and I give them all a green tag. Okay, so, and then I tell it to back up every time I exit, and I really recommend that to everyone as well. It's just a really good prompt. You could do once a month, once a week, how much you're working. I do every time. It's just a really good reminder. My standard previews, I'm working on a big 27-inch Mac, so I have my standard previews to go full screen. Discard once every 30 days. And the other change here that doesn't default that I recommend is to automatically write your changes into the XMP file. So if I make edits here on screen, they'll save. I can bring it into Photoshop or other software I use. So those are the those two panels. Then the last one is the backup. To back up with Lightroom, as you all probably know, you have to exit to set the screen. So it defaults to every time, because I just showed you I set that. So now the backup folder also defaults to the pictures folder on your hard drive. So I wanted to show you this. And I left it here because I just created the Skillshare backup. So here's the backup. And it makes sense if you're doing Time Machine weekly, so that you'll have your backup on your with next to your catalog. But I lately have been putting my backups in my Dropbox, or I could use one of these many hard drives. So right now, this is my new workflow for 2021 is to stick them in the Dropbox. And then I would definitely check these. It takes a little longer, but you're backing up, you have integrity, and you can, rock and roll. So I'm going to skip this time because I'm not backing up. But now we're back in PowerPoint, and now we can review the tabs that I just talked about, and then I'm going to open it up to some questions. So these are the takeaways on the global Lightroom Classic Preference Preview. That's a mouthful. Tell it which catalog to open, treat JPEGs as separate photos, set your master, your camera serial number, so you get what you're setting your camera at. And the general tab, make sure your catalog's where you want them to be, set how long you want it to back up. And on the backup strategy, it's good to think of the 3-2-1 mantra. So you want 3 copies of your photos, 2 different types of backup, so 2 different external hard drives. So if you're using like a RAID, that's 1, so you need another external, and then 1 off-site in a cloud. So these are some to consider. I'm using Integro. I think you'll see throughout this webinar, I happen to be a fan of Lacey. I'm that kind of person. I have the same clients for 10, 20 years. I have friends for a long time. And I use lots of different hard drives, but Lacey, for many reasons, is my go-to, and they're really quiet. Anyway,
And Lacey is kind enough to be sponsoring you today.
yes, they
You
are.
didn't mention that.
Thank you,
I did.
Rod. Thanks,
So
Rod.
stick around for the raffle too. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Thanks, Rod.
No, I'm really glad you said that, because I forgot. And
Me too.
if there's time, I can maybe tell a backstory with Lacey, but I'm thrilled that they're doing this, because I think they're a great company. So anyway, so I use Integro, which is not a cloud, but talking to lots of people, they use Backblaze or Crash Cloud. Those are really popular ones. Their fee, you pay about 100, 120. You can look online. They do offer free trials. Integro's like, I think $40 for me to do it the way I want to do it. Meaning I can back up all different kinds of hard drives, and I use Dropbox and Google Drive. So I'm really comfortable with my setup. It's really a matter of you know, what you're comfortable with, what you need. So with that said, I'm going to pause for some questions.
Okay,
We have one.
Yeah.
What
go
do-
ahead, go ahead. Go ahead, Ellen. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Megan has a question. I recently upgraded to an M1 Mac and can only run the latest Lightroom. But sometimes I do editing for someone else and they're still running on an older version and doesn't want to upgrade. I need to upgrade their catalog they send me in order to work on their catalog. Right. Is there a trick to get around this problem?
Yeah, I don't know. That's I know that problem. I mean, the only quick workaround I could tell you is to have I mean, if you have a second computer, don't update it. I mean, I used to have clients or student when I taught at different colleges, we'd have a different program, so I couldn't update, but of course you're going to want to be updated. So I don't know. That's something you can't go back in Lightroom. So that, I mean, that's a given. So I don't know how you're going to work with that client. You're going to probably have to bring them forward.
Okay, next question from Jason. Is there any advantage or disadvantage to keeping the primary copies of imports and catalog backup files within the Creative Cloud folder, which syncs with Adobe's servers? Should I read that again?
Yeah.
Okay. The screen jumped because somebody added a question and then I lost track. Is
That's
there
okay.
any
A big question.
is there any advantage or disadvantage to keeping the primary copies of imports? Whoops, I just lost chat. What happened there? I just lost the chat.
Yeah, because we went to screen share, so you got to click chat down below, Ellen. and
Yeah,
it'll pop
okay,
up.
sorry about that. Wasn't expecting that to happen. Okay, one more time. Is there any advantage or disadvantage to keeping the primary copies of imports and catalog backup files within the Creative Cloud folder, which syncs with Adobe's servers?
Oh, yeah, the disadvantage of that is you're gonna have to pay a lot of money. You know, you get, I don't even know, 20 gigabytes, I think, some very small number for free. So I wouldn't do that. And I mean, my guess is this person who's writing to me is doing JPEGs and using mobile, and then that's a whole different thing. So in general, no, you want to keep your photos on external hard drives. You want your catalog, if you can, on one of your main computers or laptops, and then you want your photos on your externals. So here you can see I have 2 lacies. So so no, you don't want to do that.
Okay, Jason, I hope that helped you. Kristen, can you please show the path to where you set the catalog backup location again?
Oh,
Can you
yeah,
please
sure.
show the path to where you set the catalog backup location again?
Yeah, so that's good question. And I recommend everyone just really look around these things. You know, if you've been using Lightroom for a while, you'd be surprised how routine things are, and then there the question was where the backup was. I'm sorry, I was talking. Is that
No
what it was,
problem.
Ellen?
I'm gonna read,
Where the back?
I'm gonna say it again, but I just also want to say you stop the recording a lot and I have to keep starting it up again. So just paused. And so now we're getting a lot of breaks in it. So I just want to point that out. I don't know why that's happening, but I'm seeing it. So I just want to point that out. If Rod or Cheryl, just to be aware, the recording keeps pausing. I don't know why.
Okay.
Okay, I'll go back to
well,
that.
I'll try to stay in my share screen as
Okay.
much as possible till the end, and maybe that will help.
Okay.
So, okay, so
So Kristen said, can you please show the path to where you set the catalog backups location again?
okay, so the backup location, unfortunately, we have to go out of here again, but you're gonna quit, you have to quit to set it up. So I'm gonna say, do you really want to quit? And so for that person asking me, make sure you had first set this to every time. So otherwise you're not going to get the screen. If you set it for every 2 weeks or a month, you're not going to get this.
I don't
What?
mean to interrupt you, but some people are having a hard time really seeing your screen. They think it's a little small. So it's better, instead of pointing, just read what the tab says for those people who can't really see what you pointed to.
Okay.
Yeah.
On a big screen. I'm pointing to, it says backup catalog every time I exit. And then there's a place to choose. Can you see this, Ellen?
Oh, I could see, but I can't read anything. It's very tiny, but I know, I
Okay,
sort of
so
know
it
where you
says,
are.
it'll say backup folder, and then there's a big choose that you can ignite, and then you're gonna pick where you want to put it. It defaults to pictures. So I put it in Dropbox, or I could put it in, I have a backup, G Technologies. These are even more Lightroom catalogs I have off my Mac, and you can just put it anywhere. So that's where I hope.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
Yeah,
Yeah. Darrell Ann, why and when do you decide to use multiple catalogs? What is the strategy?
that's a good question. And it's funny because if you listen, there's a lot of people teach Lightroom, and a lot of people say use one catalog, and I've been hearing that for a long time. And when I first started Lightroom, I'm the kind of person, if you tell me to use one, I'm going to use 10, because that's just sort of who I am. But for me, I do lots of different photography, and I've been doing photography for a long time. So if I had one catalog, it would just have been unmanageable. And also I have different clients. I'm a portrait photographer. So, and like one family in particular, I've been photographing the family for 14 years. They have their own catalog. And I have a bunch of clients like that are repeat clients, so they all get their own catalog, and I can go through the years and do lots of creative things with all those pictures I have, and I don't really want them elsewhere. Then I'll have a portrait catalog for the other people that, you know, aren't on the long haul. Then I have a landscape and a seascape, because that's where my fine art is. So I'm talking about me, but just to give you ideas. If you're just starting out and you're just new to Lightroom, coming from Bridge or new to photography, then I say start with one catalog and learn all the nuances, because managing more than one catalog, you know, there's a little bit of a learning curve, because you got to learn one. So if you have 5, then you can make the same mistake times 5. So that's the strategy. The strategy is thinking about how you work photographically and deciding if do you want everything together. If you're like, I know some of you are like food photographers and headshot photographers. Personally, I would have separate catalogs for food versus portraits, or event photography. I saw some of you had. I would either do an event photography catalog, or if it's a big shoot, you know, maybe give each event its own catalog. So start with one, know it, and then I actually recommend more. It just, that's how my brain works. I
Okay,
hope
we're
that
going to
was
move
helpful.
on. We have another question that slightly pertains to this in a way. Barbara says that, well, Barbara, it depends where you saved your original photos, but I'm gonna, you know, this is for Cheryl. So Barbara's saying that she's having a problem in the latest version of Lightroom when she changes, when she changes the name of a folder in Lightroom Classic, the exclamation point pops up because it can't locate the pathway back to that photo. And then once she finds it, Lightroom has to be closed and reopened for this to be corrected. So,
Well, let's hold that thought, because I am going to go into import now. So I will talk about that more generally, and we'll see if your question gets answered, because that's really the next slide, which is import, and that's where that folder panel is. So
so we should move on, because that's the last.
yeah, I'm
that's
going to move
a good
on,
segue.
but yeah, it's a perfect segue, because we're going to go into the import panel, which is the only place the folder panel is, and it's actually a great place. So let's see if I can share my screen without going out and ruining your tape. So let me see. I think I could do this. Okay, so I have to reopen Lightroom because I had to quit to show you where the backup was. But okay, so she was asking about the folder panels, which are here. But let's begin with importing. So for the purpose of this lesson, I'm going to import pictures that are on my desktop, so I could teach this class. So notice though that the middle panel is saying copy, because I didn't, I don't have a card in there. But anyway, so let me go to what I'm going to add, which let me just find the file. Sorry, I tried to be here. Okay, so new imports. So you'll notice these are grayed out because they're already in my catalog. Over here, I say don't import suspected duplicates, which I recommend. So these are the images you're importing. These days, I'm not doing a DNG. I can tell you why later, but to keep it brief, I just although it's more neat and tidy because you have the XMP all rolled up in a folder, I'm just finding, I'm working on pictures now that are 10 years old, and it's just easier for me to search for the raw files. So it's just a particular strategy I'm using. So anyway, so I'm not going to copy as a DNG. I'm going to copy these. And this is what I do to have that 3-2-1 backup strategy on the import. I copy them. They're on my desktop. Usually they're on a card. So that's one copy. That's the card. I make a second copy. I have a backup drive that's just devoted to backing up my images. So I'll put it here, and I hope you can see this. So these are the Quag Wildlife Refuge. It's a place I take people on in-person workshops, and a place I go to a lot. It's a beautiful place. So here we are in the import. I put it there as a second copy, and then I recommend you go down the list. But the first thing here is the build previews. I do standard. If you're doing an event shot and you have lots of pictures, then you might want to do embedded in Sidecar. They're going to load quicker. Typically, I'll upload a couple hundred at a shot, but I use a card reader, so they go really fast. So I still like the standard. 1-to-1, if you have the memory for it, it's fine. But my standards are going to go 1-to-1 because I set that up in the catalog settings that I showed you before. I was going to tell you not to build smart previews. My workflow was always building them, but then with COVID, I was never going anywhere. So I was never without my computer. So my workflow was not building smart previews, but then just funny enough, just the other day I was working on a project and I had to find this picture that was about 8 years old, and I couldn't find it. And but I had a smart preview. So with a smart preview, you don't need the real file. I was able to print a 4x6 and job was done. So I'm back to saying build smart previews if you have the room. I have a second copy. I'm not going to add to a collection now. I don't rename my files because I don't. It's just I just don't. Develop settings. I don't use develop settings because I'm always doing something different, and I try to work from straight out of the camera to where I want to go. So that's my workflow. I do have a general metadata template that I'll quickly show you. I call it general because I put it on everything unless it's a client. So this is what it looks like. It's my general in 2021. I change it every year. I have a licensing information. I give as much information as possible so that they can find me. And then if it's a job for a client, I use a Getty type of release. I do work for Getty sometimes. So anyway, so that all this IPTC extension stuff would be in. So that would be a particular metadata template per client. Here I can put some keywords in because there's a general setting. So I can say Quag Wildlife. I can say fall because I know this was a fall. I can say fall colors because that's I teach about color. And I think that's all I'm going to put here now. And then I'll show you how to do more keywords after. I always organize into one folder. And then it's really important here to put the pictures from, we're going from the Mac desktop, second copy here, first copy goes where I want it to go. If I don't tell it, it's going to go right back onto my Mac. So I'm going to do my Lacey 2020 is my new drive. And I have a Quag Wildlife folder, so I'm going to put them in there. Some people organize by dates. I organize by dates as a whole, but I photograph with this kind of stuff in categories. So I'm going to say import, and this should just take a second. And then a couple of more things I'll point out on this panel, and then I'll open it to discussion. So I forgot her name already, but she asked about the folders panel. So I'll pick a picture, and see, I built smart previews. I'll take this picture, and if I right click, and right clicking in the library module in the grid view offers you a wealth of tools. So I'm going to go to folder in library. So this is here. So this is where this picture is. It's telling me it's on the Lacey, and that's exactly where I want it to be. It's no longer on my my hard drive, my Mac. If you get the question mark here, I think I might have to individualize that answer for after, but let me go on and then you'll see if I answer that. So if you'd want to change the name of a folder, you can change it in here and it will disappear. So I don't even want to do that now because, yeah, so to answer your question, yeah, it will. So this filter tab is fabulous. You can, like this collection of 412 very miscellaneous type of pictures. So I can go into the metadata and say, all right, what did I shoot this year? That's in here. Now fog is something I've always photographed. It was the environment of my first body of work, and I still love the fog. So you can see I already have all these keywords there. Or we can also search by, I'll go back here again. And we can search by, let me get out of here. Okay. We can search by, I could put in a keyword. Oops. Sorry. What just happened? Oh, that never happened before. Sorry, I gotta find everyone. Okay, so not sure what happened. So let me, I'm gonna skip this. All right. Skip this time. Go back into Lightroom. Sorry, you're probably gonna lose your
No, it's okay.
okay,
There's no
yeah.
break in the recording.
Okay, great. I have no idea what happened. Obviously, I pushed a button. I'm in the people tab. Okay, no people tab. I don't know what happened. See, even I make mistakes. We all can make mistakes. So going back to the metadata tab, I was trying to say, I can check based on, you know, keywords, etc. You can check by ratings. So let's do some keywording. Some are already keyworded, but let me show you. Let's look at this one. So this has trying to find a picture. So this is pink, Rogers Beach sunsets. Let's add sand. So there's a paint can. I'm gonna say sand, because I don't know, maybe I want sand. And I can just, with the paint can, add sand to these pictures.
So Cheryl, you're
Excuse me,
no longer
Cheryl?
sharing your screen. Nobody
What?
can see your screen. You stopped sharing your screen.
Oh, thank you for telling me.
Okay,
Let's see. Are we there now?
yep.
Okay, so what I did was I picked some images and I picked a common denominator, which was sand. And in the grid view, you can just do this. You can paint keywords. I already have pink. I was trying to pick ones that, and that one is clouds, so that doesn't need sand. So I'll erase that. Here we could do blue. So to do blue, you go here, change it. So it's really, you know, I do a lot on color, so colors are meaningful to me. So that's keywords. Let me just see what else I wanted to talk about.
That paint can's phenomenal. I didn't know that about the paint can. That's unbelievable.
Oh yeah, it's great. And you can add double things.
We
So you
do,
want to put it back. Let me think what, I'm trying to find pictures that aren't tagged. Okay, so these are iCloud 6. So let's do clouds. We could do sand and pink. So I'll do sand and pink for these. So I'll do sand, comma, pink. And, you know, because these are sand and pink. So this stuff will be helpful later.
so you're tapping the photo with the paint can because the photo's not, oh, okay, you're tapping it and it's gently highlighting. That's how you know that it took?
That's a good question. You know it took because there's a white border around the picture. Do you see
Okay,
that?
yep.
Here we have, and then you want to put the can back in its place. It's cute, but here these are cherry blossoms. So let's do flowers. So I don't think I did that. I didn't. So we'll do flowers. So you hit the paint can, say flowers, and then of course you can be really particular. These I already did cherry blossoms. So I guess they're really trees, but we'll call them flowers for this.
Does the shift key work if you hit the first one with the shift key and then hit the last one if they're successive? Does the shift key work when you do paint can?
That's a great question. I actually don't know. Let's see. Let's try it. I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Let's see what these are. Ball Montauk. So here I can put in fog. So this will really help me later. Like I'm working on a body of work and I don't really know what I'm using yet. So I'm just dragging this one. I'm going to skip these guys. And none of these pictures are edited. They're just raw captures. You know, I live out in the Hamptons and we get this wonderful fog. So, and then you can change the size of these too. Remove column.
A quick question. Is there a shortcut to open the keyword paint can?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
Okay, that was from Jason. Hey, Jason.
So I think that's everything I wanted to, some people asked me in the survey, can you use these presets? And yeah, you can. It's like on the Lightroom will remember what you use. Like you can see here, I have local colors, West Hampton. You know, been doing keywords for a while. So I don't use the quick to develop here, the histogram. You know, we'll talk about that more in develop. So that's what I do in this panel. Oh, you know, the last thing I'll talk about is collections. So we can create a collection. I probably have some here. I do a lot of collections. So let's create a collection for fog. So, so I can make that, I'll just make it a collection for now, and that picked the one I was in. So let's go back to all the pictures, and I can make fog my target collection by right-clicking, set as target collection. So it gives you a little plus sign. And now, every time I hit the B key, I'll start down here because the fog's some more down here. Every time I hit the B key, so B, like the letter B, it's going to add it to my collection. So I don't know if you knew that, but that's a great shortcut. Here I can do the shift key, hold it. I'd selected 6 of them, and I can drag them into the fog. Here I can select them, hit the B key, and move them all in. So now I have some fog pictures. If I want to collect more, I can. And then I can make more collections. Collections would be important if I was, you know, going to explore them more. Say I want to see what the difference in these pictures are. I'll select 1, 2, 3 and use the survey view. And really, I would probably look first and decide what I like. And because these are foggy and misty, I'd have to go into the develop panel anyway to see if these are any good anyway, you know. Shooting in the fog is a little hit and miss because you know, it's hard to establish a good focus and interest, but I can see that this kind of picture appeals to me. So maybe this is something I'll bring into the develop panel when I switch over to that. So I think that might be it. Again, here's the folder panel. Here's the collections. There is a navigator panel. Don't really use it that much. I'd use this more, fit and full screen. I do use this a lot to see what size my images are, to see, you know, see where I'm starting from on a EXIF level. So with
We have a
that,
question.
I'm going to
We have
ask,
a
take
question.
some questions. Yeah.
Yep, we do. We have something that pertains to the current conversation. What do you think of creating keyword categories? For example, in the keyword list, create a keyword Massachusetts, and then within that, one titled Cape Cod that you would then apply to that corresponding group of photos.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Here's all my list. Yeah, so, you know, if that's sort of how you think, yeah, why not? I think that's a great idea.
We have a question, but it's for when you get to the develop module, which we didn't get
Eh,
to yet.
And actually, I got a message to me personally, so I'm just going to read it. It's from Cosmo. Is there a limit to how many photos can be uploaded to one Lightroom catalog?
That's a great question. They say no. To me, at a certain point, I don't know what that point is. It's going to slow things down. So it's a great question. If you ask, Lightroom will tell you that they want you to use one catalog, but I don't think that's really makes sense for a professional who's been working for many years and shooting lots of things. So one of my catalog, a go-to catalog that I'm working on now for my fine art body of work, it's got 40,000 pictures in it, and that's not a lot. I know people who have 200,000 in a catalog. After that, I would get nervous personally. It's a good question. You'll get many different answers on that.
Can you demonstrate how to export a set of images in an existing catalog to a new catalog?
Sure.
That's from Ken.
Okay, sure. I think what I'm going to do then is open a different catalog because, well, I'll do this. Let's see. We'll do my fog pictures that I just did, okay? So here we are. That's where a collection is helpful because it's easy to pick. So that's one way to do it. I can show you a couple other ways, but I went into collections and I'm going to go to export as catalog. This is a good question, actually. So let's see. I got the spinning wheel. So, okay, so it's asking me where to put it. So that's something you always want to think about. Do you want to put it on your desktop for now because you're going to move it somewhere else, or do you want it for posterity and you're going to put it, know where it is? But for now, I'm going to put it on my desktop because I don't want to confuse myself. So I'm going to say fog. So we're creating a catalog called fog. And here is, I don't know if you can read this. So I'm going to read what it says. It says exporting a catalog with 17 photos, export selected photos only. I'm going to click that because I'm only exporting what I picked. Export negative files. So that means it's going to move the pictures with it. So yes, I want it to do that. Include smart previews. I'm going to say no, but you can say yes. It's just going to take up more room. Actually, it's at 17. Let's do that. So I checked everything. Everything's checked. I'm going to export the catalog. And now I'm going to show you on my desktop that it's not my desktop. It's funny how I thought Google was my desktop. I'll show you on my desktop that we have fog, which I spelled wrong. And here's the catalog. Here are the images. And now I can go to another catalog and add that back in. Should I show you that?
Sure.
All right, so I don't want to mess up my catalogs, but let's see. Okay, so this is on my desktop, misspelled. So let's just fix that. Fuck. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to quit this catalog because I don't want to export it here. It's already in here. So say I decide I want this in my master landscape catalog I've been working on. So I'm going to go Lightroom, quit. Do you really want to quit? Yes. Skip this time. And then I could have done it a different way actually, but I'll open Lightroom again. Now it's here. You can see some of my catalog. So I'm going to bring it into my landscapes and seascapes. So this is a catalog I'm working on now so this is one with close to 40,000 pictures. And this is where I'm combing through things to create a body of work, which I'm really excited about. So now I'm gonna go to import from another catalog, because we just last exported. So on my desktop, I'm going to fog. I'm gonna, well, spelled wrong there too, but we'll leave it spelled wrong. Choose. And now it's going to say all folders, check. Image vault, onwards. This is where one of the pictures are. Preserve old settings as a virtual copy. Replace non-RAW files only. Replace non-RAW files only. I'm not going to check that. I don't know what that means. All right, so what that meant is that all of them were not RAW files. So we can import it again. Let's see what these pictures are. Oh, there's only one RAW file. Well, you know what, I didn't do it right. Huh. So let me go back to the other catalog and Skillshare. Relaunch. Skip this time. So what I did wrong, it happens when you're teaching, is I only had this one picture selected. So that's why that whole catalog only went with that. So I won't go through the whole thing again, but I'll show you now. I selected them all and I'll go export as catalog and I'll call it FOG2 onto my desktop. Now it's 17 photos and they'll be there. So anyway, good question. I made a mistake, but that's life. So anyway, just to show you, they're all over here. FOG2. And there's all the pictures. Then I can bring them into another catalog. So that's a good thing to do. And you know, if you're the same person asking me that you had a lot of pictures, how much is too much? You know, it's not a bad way to take things and start anew. Gives you a fresh look on things. You know, if you have 100,000 pictures in a database, you're not going to know what's going on at a certain point. So any other questions, or should I go into develop? Let's see, it's 4:04.
Well,
We have a question for the developed section, actually.
yeah, it's been
Okay.
sitting there, yeah.
So let's go into develop. So once I leave develop, I will show you that the folders section disappears. And just before I move to develop again, I will just show again, if I want to know, like, where did this come from? I can go to folder in library. I can also go to right click and show in Finder, because that is also sometimes helpful especially if you have those question marks, you're looking for a folder. So let's go into the develop module and see, this one defaulted to Adobe Color because let's go into the grid view. Let me just bring in one of those pictures I just brought in to show you how. Forgot what I brought in. Quag Wildlife, I think. Okay, so let's bring in something pretty. Let's bring in this, the develop module. See, so now it defaulted to my camera portrait. This is a Canon profile, which these treatments are only starting places, but for me, I have, a nice camera. I want it to read what I have. I don't want Adobe Color to tell me what this looks like. So anyway, there are lots of camera matching profiles, and they're all going to make things a little different. Landscape's obviously going to, make it more vivid, pump up the greens. Canon has a thing for reds, and Nikon has a thing for greens, and Sony has a thing for greens too. So those are just things to know. So usually my go-to is neutral or standard. So this is my starting point. So I'll close this. I can look at the histogram. I just glance at it really more to see what my settings were. And for the purposes of this webinar, I'm only gonna touch on 2 panels here. So it's treatment. The other thing is, if you're gonna crop, and there's lots of schools of theory on crop, but if you know you're gonna crop before you begin, I would crop before you edit, because, for instance, say I take out that whole big branch, it's gonna be less dark, and everything's going to change. But typically I try to compose in camera. So I'm going to keep the crop, but I just wanted to mention that. So I'm going to close that. And I go down these things. If I'm in a big rush and I just need a JPEG for someone, I'll go to auto and just see how Adobe is going to take my picture and change it. I usually don't like it, so I do Command Z. And for me, I have a very particular way of how I'm seeing and how I want the camera to behave. I actually one of those people who shoot white balance. I usually don't do auto white balance. I set my white balance to be the temperature and the time of day that I'm shooting, because I like that first JPEG when it comes in to be the way I'm seeing it. So I'm particular about that. So usually my white balance is right on. And then I would go down these sliders. So exposure is always good. It's a good way to see if you're right on or not. So this picture I was pretty right on, but the shadows, those blacks in the trees, I might want to open that up a little so I can see the bark. So, I do like that. Highlights, I could bring down a little. And then texture. And if you're new to these sliders, what I always recommend is just take them and play with them. See what it really does. So I'm in a fit view, and it's really good to work on a 100%. So I just jack this up to 100, and it really still looks good. Clarity works on the midtones. Dehaze, is to work with fog pictures. I probably would never use dehaze in my fog pictures. Vibrance is something I always use. I usually do 10 to 20. It's like a saturation, but it's more subtle. It doesn't throw off the red tones, I'll show you what saturation would do. See how it just makes that look plastic looking. So I usually don't use saturation, but I use vibrance as a go-to. So that would be like a basic 1, 2, 3 run through. I go through the basic panel. It should take 5 minutes for a basic work through. The other panel I wanted to show you is lens correction, and I moved it here. I can show you how I did that. And I moved it because it's usually all the way down, and it's one I always use. So I always use it. I click it, and it finds my lens, finds my camera, And, you know, it just reads it better. Then now I go back to the full view and I can see that it's looking a little too bright for me, so I just bring the whole thing down. I do have a calibrated monitor. I calibrated for this webinar. So that's pretty good. So I'm happy with that. I'm not gonna do the others today, but maybe I'll just do a foggy one to show you why they made fog. So right now I'm in the E view, but if I go into the grid, so E is for single person grid. Let's do like this one. So I'll do E for full screen and go back to develop, and I'll show you the dehaze. So dehaze is supposed to get rid of haze, but notice how much grain it brings up. So that's something to think about. But you know, I like the fog, so I'd probably even add more fog to this. Again, I set this. This one I can't find. I think this was a old Panasonic. Look at that, they don't even make it anymore. So, you know,
Can you quickly tell us how you move that camera info box?
yeah. Let me think, let's see if I remember.
That's from Cynthia.
So we're over here. And it was down here, so I'll move it. Let's see if I can remember how. I think maybe it's right click. No, right click here. Okay, so I clicked in the middle of the black, right click, customize, develop panel. Then you get this customized panel grid. And then you can move them. I mean, Lightroom, they're really smart. They know what they're doing. So there's a, you know, there's a certain logic to what they're doing. But I mean, just for me, there's basic and then there's lens correction. They go together. And detail, I don't know, that could be something to think about moving. I guess I'll talk about detail, that last one, but let me figure out a picture for that. Let's do my egrets. I take a lot of egret pictures. This is just one I put in the collection. It's certainly maybe not my best, but it just was in the upload, but I'll show you some things here. So, you know, this is fog on purpose. I'm not going to defog it. I like the fog. It's the look I'm going for. But the sharpening, if you hold the Option key while you take the masking key over to the right, I'm going to go all the way over, and I highly encourage people to do that. Just play it, because I can release it and go back. So everything white is being sharpened now. And the problem with this at 100%, it's going to create like this halo around that egret. So I'm going to back it back a little to like that. And then the detail is the same thing. Option. You probably can't see on the screen, but this is like a line drawing. It's highlighting the bird. So I don't want to go too much because it'll create like a halo. So I'm going to go to 36%. Sharpening, these are raw files, so you can take it up. I'm going to go to I mean, it's probably pretty sharp as is, but that's that. And then as I'm looking at this picture, I can see that, you know, the horizon's not straight. So I would just take that. And if I say constrain to image and close, I like a more even landscape. So I guess I'll stay here for a minute and look at my egret. Oh, and then I would add the texture. And I don't care if there's grain, and then I can clean that up if I do care about the noise. And so watch how the vibrance just makes that green. That's the color it really was. And then if I don't like the noise up here, I can use the noise reduction. But fog is textural. So let's see if I did my lens correction there. Nope. So that's like a go-to. You always want to do that. So I guess I'll stay in here and see if there's any more questions. And then I see we're almost out of time. I think there's just one more thing left. So any questions, or should I?
We do have a question that was sitting there from Chris from a little while ago. He says that, or she says that sometimes an image I just edited in Develop module turns darker when I switch to the library module to export. Happens from time to time with a few images and a batch of 500. Not sure why this happens.
Well, my guess is if it's graying out, that means it can't find the original file, so it's using a smart preview. That would be my guess.
Chris, I hope that helps you. Let us know in the chat if that helped you.
Because here I'll go, that won't happen, but usually things are grayed out if it can't tag the original, so to speak. Any other questions?
Do you use noise reduction in your camera when you photograph in low light?
In camera, no. I don't. I let raw, I shoot raw, and but I test my cameras, see what they can handle. Like I just, as I was saying, got I got the R6, and I was out last night or the other night shooting at I think I did 64,000. So I haven't tested that yet, but I mean, from a quick look, it looks like the pixels are fine, and I didn't do low
Okay.
noise night.
Chris got back to us and you did not answer his question. So Chris, if you want to go back into the chat and clarify your question, we could help you. We have about 15 more minutes, and I also want to do the raffle.
And also he can email me and show, we do a screen share, he can show me, because
We do have one more question too.
Okay.
Before we do the raffle. Is there a reason that you put keywords on after you import rather than while importing?
No, I do them both. In the import, if I have, like with the quad wildlife, I think we put that in. I did quad wildlife, colors, fall. Like, so if it's a collection of images that are keywords make sense, yeah, no, I'll put them in to the beginning, and then later I'll go in and add more. Like some will be red because that colors are important to me. But yeah, no, if they're all from a collection, you should do it then on import.
And Rita wants to know, which color profile do you usually work in?
Well, I use lots of different cameras, so but as a rule, with that said, I usually match the profile with the camera I'm using on a standard. So I don't like the profiles to pump up anything. I'd rather do that. So I'd rather take the information from the RAW with the camera standard profile and then work it on from there. Like Fuji's got their own, Sony's got their own, they all have them, but I generally start with those over Adobe.
So, yeah, okay, I was just gonna ask, you don't use the Adobe RGB color profile. You choose your camera profiles over the Adobe RGB.
Well, it's not Adobe RGB, it's Adobe Color. It's a profile,
Adobe Color.
not a color setting.
Ah.
I mean, you know, sometimes I do, but if I don't have to, I don't.
Chris
And
is going
Chris,
to email you.
Yeah, please email me. I'm happy to help you, help me understand and help you figure out why that's happening. Lightroom, it can get so frustrating when you know, you're staring at the thing and it's just not doing what you want it to do.
So remember to put your email in the chat, Cheryl, for everyone. Remember to put it in there so people could get back in touch with you.
Okay, I will.
I think that's it for some of the questions. I don't see anything new that came in. Unless I missed something. Somebody did have the shortcut for the paint can feature. It's up above. Meg gave us the shortcut for getting into the keyword paint can feature, Command Option K. If anybody missed it.
Yep, there it is. Yeah, you know, I'm one for shortcuts, but that one might, it's a lot to, it's three. Whereas like E, G, P for pick. But thank you.